Yeah, it was bad, but there are at least elements of it that I can appreciate within the badness, as opposed to, say, a Theodore Rex, which I had very little positive things to say about.
This film was actually the brainchild of Peter Aykroyd, Dan's brother.
Yeah, he came up with the story, right? And then Dan
Yeah,
Aykroyd was
and
like,
then Dan
I can
Aykroyd
take this and run with it.
wrote the script. Some producer they knew wanted to be taken to a movie, but he had like a hernia or something, and so he didn't want to go anywhere he would laugh. So they went to Hellraiser, the horror movie Hellraiser, 1987, and the crowd was laughing. And this is where, like, they weren't, but like the crowd was like, "This is hilarious! Oh yeah, kill that guy!" Whatever. And so Dan Aykroyd had the idea. Well, what about a horror comedy? And so Peter Aykroyd came up with the story, or Dan Aykroyd ran with it, but a lot of it was actually taken from an actual thing that happened to Dan Aykroyd in 1978, where he was pulled over for speeding in the middle of the night in a rural area and taken to the local justice of the peace to stand trial at like 2 a.m. And the justice of the peace ended up like giving him a fine or everything, but also invited him to tea. And he sat there for 4 hours and talked to the justice of the peace in this little town, this elderly justice of the JP in northern New England somewhere. And so that was his experience that he said, well, what if we did that, but it also made it really, really, really weird. And so there you go.
Because this did not read as horror comedy. This read as it never figured itself out. Like this felt like the comedy piece of it was like a watered down Mel Brooks in some ways, and then we'll get into it, but it didn't. If they were going for horror comedy, that didn't really come across because it wasn't horror enough.
I guess yes. The whole thing is it was a horror comedy, but it was 90% comedy, 10% horror. Like
which doesn't work.
There's a crazy guy who basically rules with an iron fist over a tiny town in the coal country of Pennsylvania. And anybody he doesn't like, he sentences to death via roller coaster. And he may have done this to thousands of people. And the state attorney general knows about it, spoiler alert, and is okay with it. Totally like, fine. So you can make that. Maybe not with the roller coaster thing. Maybe with just sentenced to death, via guillotine or something. You can make that into a horror comedy with more horror in it, because then you would make the whole thing of, oh my God, we were able to escape, but everybody we should be trusting to do something about this is actually cool with it. That's like not a throwaway gag at the very end of the movie. It's the last half of the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And a good framework for telling a story of like anybody that I would use as a resource is in on this. How the hell do I get out? Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, that's how the whole thing started. Chevy Chase did not like the script.
No.
But he took his leading role because his buddy was Dan Aykroyd. So he thought,
maybe like if you don't like it, don't take the part, because it didn't serve the film to have him not try in this movie.
He thought they could just improvise a better script than his buddy's script. And
fair.
His buddy was like, no, I wrote the script. This is the script.
This is what the script is.
And so that became like a falling out between Dan Aykroyd. He's like, hey, I love working with you, dude. I can't wait to work with you. It's going to be great. Your script is trash. So how about we improvise a brand new script? And the friend is like, but I wrote the script. So the script isn't trash because I wrote it. So you're going to say all the lines because you signed on to be on my movie. And, there you go. That's how a falling out can happen. They were in Spies Like Us together which is a very different movie, but I would say odd. Yeah.
Weird, but good. Spies Like Us is good.
Yes. Yeah. So here let's again, this is one of those movies that starts out like as one movie and becomes a different movie.
Yes. But I also am out on the premise from immediately with Demi Moore being extremely hot and successful, but not having a car. But go ahead.
It's Manhattan. So
I
allow Manhattan because honestly, if you live in Manhattan, you shouldn't need a car, especially if you're wealthy, because then you can just like call a car service. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
And
like,
this came out in
1991.
91. Okay, so New York wasn't like killing it. But like,
no,
like very possible your car could get jacked or stolen.
True. So, and also New Yorkers never leave. Like, there's a point where Chevy Chase has like, hey, I've had this car for 2 years, never been out of Manhattan.
Right.
Everything you could possibly want is in Manhattan. So nobody
or you're taking a plane.
Or you're taking a plane. No, like nobody's like, I'm gonna go for a day trip. Yeah. So anyway, the movie starts with Ray Charles singing "The Good Life," which is over like a beautiful nighttime skyline of New York City. This movie intentionally misleads you into being it's about something else. But I always feel like this is a problem for what I do, which is whenever I start doing one of these things, I start introducing our episode as though nobody watching this episode has any idea what we're about to talk about. But of course you do. It's in the thumbnail. It's in the title of the thing. We promoted it all week. This movie is like, what if somebody sat down in the theater, knew it starred Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Demi Moore, but knew nothing else about this movie? How long could we trick them into thinking it was a regular Manhattan set comedy? And I'm like, you can't do that though, because there's a trailer that shows Dan Aykroyd wearing a lot of prosthetics and eating a hot dog. Like there's a lot of weird stuff in the movie that you've shown already. But it is determined to make you think that that it's something else.
You also can't, I don't want to say can't, because you can do anything, but it's, I think, a lot more challenging when you're already doing a horror comedy to then also flip it. Like, if you're already blending two genres that are kind of polar opposites ambitiously, to then also add this element of leading you down this path, nope, it's actually this, gets so convoluted because they didn't even have control of the first piece of what I said.
Yeah.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.